Hey guys, I'm just waiting for Facebook. I'm live on, and now I'm live on Facebook and YouTube. I hope you enjoy this. So you don't get any tech issues. Probably shouldn't start with the negative, or maybe get negatives. I don't know. But anyway, it's your boy M.K.S here, back with another video. Finally, I'm over 3 hours later than planned because it's now about 11 minutes past 11 or thereabouts, 8 minutes past 11 or whatever, and I meant to start this second part at 8 o'clock, but I started eating and then go for a walk and then go for a shower and all that kind of thing. But I was just trying to prepare myself to do this. I suppose I need to eat obviously for the fuel and that kind of thing, and sometimes I need to go for my granddad now and all that kind of thing. But anyway, I'm here now, so hopefully I'll get at least up to part 3 finished, and ideally part 4 as well. It looks like I'm racing against time as per usual. I was thinking time is probably the most valuable, one of the most valuable things in life, and it's not even a commodity because you can't buy and sell it or whatever. Well, some people say you can buy your time back or whatever, but that's a bit complex for me. It's a bit over my head. But I was watching an interview by a fellow dyslexic, Kevin O'Leary, earlier, and it was I only saw part of it, but it was quite interesting. From a diary of a CEO who apparently, as well as being a fellow, is also neurodivergent or whatever. Apparently he's got ADHD. But anyway, I was thinking of some things that I'm probably going to cover in part 3 now, because I'm just going to try and jump to it. I've just been trying to think of things to cover. So these are pointers number 11 to 20. Hope you enjoy my waffling, and I'd love to know what you think as ever. I hope you don't, Josh. Yeah, I was going to cover some things in the intro, but hopefully I'll cover them in part 3, all being well. I should call 4. So here goes. So number 11. I would love to see what could be done to change the situation to improve the lives for Native Americans in areas like politics, how to get more Native Americans into politics, how to help with goal setting, how to get more into tech, and generally to achieve their goals and get empowered financially and in other ways as well. And how, let's say, I know I talked about in part 1, like how YouTube, TikTok, and others could help to support their content, that kind of thing. Content creators like influencers or whatever, YouTubers and TikTokers or whatnot. In this case, from Native American communities and Native people across the Americas, and similar for neurodivergent people and Black people around the world, as I said before, including from Africa, as well as Europe, the UK, Britain, America, and elsewhere, and maybe even Aboriginals, for instance, and maybe even like funding, offering ways to fund or finding ways to fundraise for Aboriginals, for instance, to be able to set up more Aboriginals to be able to set up their own YouTube and TikTok accounts, as well as Native Americans and Native people from across the Americas. I was thinking to try and cover a range of different groups, because as I said in part 1, I didn't get around to neurodivergent Thursdays last week because I was focusing on Italian football, which I hope to cover tomorrow, all being well, a little bit if I can get around to it, if I can organise my speech and organise my time a bit better and sleep less. That'd be great. Sleep earlier would be a challenge, I guess, because I'm always behind schedule with my goals. But number 12, I was saying before, I'd love to look into ways they can be mentored, taught, trained, and that kind of thing. And seeing what they can achieve and that kind of thing. Number 13, something I was going to cover yesterday, but I didn't get around to. I thought I'd get the worst out of the way. Admittedly, I know I talk about my mental health problems, and I did mention it before, but I've been feeling a bit anxious and like thinking really bad things, and like fearing really bad things happening to, especially to people I love or people generally, and like imagining someone doing really bad stuff, and I can't really even explain what it is because it's a bit too dark for me to go through. As much as I kind of want to get it off my chest, it's kind of like it feels too dark to explain some of my negative thoughts about people hurting people and like for my family members, like including my own dad on his birthday, like if he was suffering or things like that, trying to get that out of my mind. Or if I do a certain thing, I know I mentioned it kind of yesterday, but if I do a certain thing, I know it's a bit off topic, but I should have said it beforehand. But I know that I know that I know I'm going a bit off topic, but losing my chain of thought. I was even thinking, I'm sure, I hope I haven't done part 2 and forgot about it, but I'm pretty sure I haven't. But yeah, I was thinking that I didn't want to jinx it, but yeah, like really awful things happening to my own dad and stuff like that. And I didn't know whether to mention that or not. I didn't know whether to draw attention to it, but yeah, some of my imagination or fears and things like that and whatnot becomes really dark and twisted, and not twisted as in like things that I would do to hurt people, but my fears about bad things happening to other people or to animals, or in this case to my own dad and that kind of thing. So yeah, worrying for my own dad. I suppose my parents generally as well. Poor mum. People might say, "Oh, you know, care about your mum," but I don't know why. But I had this really weird imagination, and I was trying to get it out of my own mind and that kind of thing, and imagining bad things. I mean, even like with my cat, imagining bad things happening to my cat, or whatever. So if you want me to make a video in the future, maybe I'll try and make one 18 plus, which I'll talk about my real big fears and real big scary stuff, scary imagination, like horror movies, and like how far can you go and that kind of thing. But obviously they're kind of the opposite to what I want to happen. I'm just trying to remember. I hope that's covered all the things I was going to say. But yeah, I hope my dad doesn't mind me mentioning that. In fact, hopefully my dad will say, "Oh, it's good that you worry about me, son." Yeah, especially with my dad getting older or whatever. But as I said, I don't want to talk about those fears that happen, like imagining bad things happening to my own dad and that kind of thing. But going back to the topic of like Native Americans, I know I talked about like the Wendigo, and I've talked about the Thunderbird, which is a Native American myth or urban legend. I wasn't sure whether to cover that because I covered it on Tuesday. I'll mention it again anyway. But yeah, seeing if they could benefit from like the Thunderbird and other urban legends. Urban legends. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Urban legends, not lists or lists or whatever I was trying to say there. Urban legends and myths. Maybe that's what I was trying to mix those two bags and mixing those two words, lists and myths, or whatever, legends and myths, something like that. I don't know what happened to me there. But yeah, that was my verbal dyslexia perhaps. But yeah, how they can benefit from making, as I talked before about yesterday, like making scary videos, YouTube videos, TikTok videos, or own movies, or own books, and things like that about like the Wendigo, Thunderbirds. I'm thinking of things with tea because it's Thursday, just like I was on Tuesday. Yeah, I think that covers everything for 113. I normally say about the selfish stuff about Italian football, but I'll probably cover that tomorrow. But I'd love to benefit teams like Roma and Torino, AC Milan, Inter Milan, I better say, because I'm winning the Inter Milan Cup. But Italian football generally, I'd love to find investors, sponsors, and even donors to donate to them. Maybe even encourage Italian fans like myself to donate to Italian football. And also, from a more selfish point of view, and hopefully Italian football can turn it around. But I've got lots of visions for Italian football I want to talk about tomorrow. But because it's, and even over the weekend if I can get around to it, but I certainly want to think about them and hopefully discuss them if and when I can. But I say that point number 13 because it's a selfish sort of thing. A selfish dream just because I think I love Italian now sports since I was younger, as I mentioned before. But I'm thinking of Torino because it's Thursday. I like to think of Roma daily if I can, and that kind of thing as well. But yeah, I'd love to find sponsors to sponsor Serie A, the Italian league, and the Coppa Italia, the Italian Cup, and the Italian Super Cup, and that kind of thing. And football into like football stadiums, footballs in schools and parks, Italians to get to play as much football as possible, which I've talked about before. Again, I hope to talk more about that tomorrow. I wonder if I should cover a bit more before I move on to point 14. I think there was something else I was going to say, but hopefully I'll cover that tomorrow. As I say, all being well, if I get around to it. I hope I do, and should go on Saturday and Sunday, and basically ASAP. But I want to get back to the focus of Native American and neurodivergent and Black empowerment worldwide, and that kind of thing. In the case of the latter two, But yeah, Native American people, native people from all over the Americas as well. And yeah, there's something I was thinking about, like football tournaments and like teams. Like I'd love for Italy to have different teams. Like, I don't know if I should share these ideas too openly, so other countries could copy this, but hopefully not. But hopefully they won't. But like, I suppose with ideas like in football, you can't really copyright it like a business or trademark protect or whatever. And probably you can't do that on YouTube anyway. I guess if you mention it, like you put it out there and you haven't copyrighted it, then I guess it's too late if someone copies your ideas. But I was thinking like Italian football to have like the like Coca-Cola, Pepsi Cola, Monster Energy drinks, all the energy drink companies, and all the drink and possibly food companies, and even companies generally like Ford, Toyota, and others have their own. Even Microsoft, IBM, perhaps, and others have their own like teams named after them, or teams that they sponsor in Italy to play against each other in leagues and have a competition between each other, maybe with their own employees in Italy, and or if they don't already have that, or even like just funding their own teams, even if it's not their employees or whatever. They're just people who want to get into football and they play for a certain team, and then they have that competition with each other. So it could be a good way to sort of have a friendly rivalry with each other through football, which is hopefully a relatively harmless rivalry. But moving on, number 14. As I say, I hope my dad will say if he sees this video, if I share it with him or whatever, or he stumbles across this video. Because normally I share my videos with like my mum and my dad and other people, my family members and whoever. I don't know if I should or not, but yeah, hopefully he'll say it's good that you're concerned about me, son. But yeah, initially I thought, yes, I was going to cover it yesterday and say, I don't know if I should mention it's in point number 13, but I hope I don't. Obviously, it's what I don't want to happen. So, but I thought I'd wait till point number 14 to say, God willing and Godspeed, all my family, including my mum and dad and my cat, will be well. I wish God would bless everyone and make everyone happy, especially in this month, like especially native people from all over the Americas, native people of the Americas generally, of all of the Americas, not just America itself. As I said before, like Mexico, Canada, Brazil, and wherever else across the Americas, all of the Americas. So the native people of those continents, North and South America. I think some people class Central America as another continent. I'm not sure, but not usually good at geography. But I remember there being 7 continents I learned about when I was at school, high school, when I was about 11 to 14 or whatever. But I'll say I'm not very good at geography or science or much really, to be honest. But yeah, native people from across the Americas, and also neurodivergent people worldwide, and especially in developing nations, but also worldwide, and black people around the world, the black diaspora. But yeah, I think it'd be cool if God blessed everyone, but especially those 3 groups in November. I suppose there's also Movember here in Britain, where people grow moustaches. That's not why I grow a moustache, but it's because my stepdad normally shaves me, and he didn't get around to doing so. He didn't get to do so because he went on holiday as well, so he didn't manage to organise it. And a nice life story, but I do cut myself when I shave, so sometimes I lack the energy and all that kind of thing, believe it or not. Or I forget things, or whatever. That's really annoying. But yeah, there's also Movember, where they raise funds to tackle, I think it's testicular cancer or something like that, cancer amongst men. I think it's a cancer that affects males more, possibly testicular cancer or something like that. Anyway, I'm not sure if it's cancer more generally, but so there's also Movember, but I haven't really focused much on that, unfortunately. But that's something else I could probably focus on, like Movember as well, especially on the 23rd when I think like charity. Maybe I could cover that. But moving on, also those groups like native people from across the Americas, for instance, solving problems, and I said before, like the ideas I have from native people from across the Americas could also apply for neurodivergent people and for the black diaspora, respectively. So I could use those ideas interchangeably for each group. And the good thing about dyslexics, which are part of the neurodiverse community, is that we can be good problem solvers. Some of us, we can see out the box to solve problems sometimes. Maybe not myself, but many dyslexics can. I think I can do it sometimes, but I do struggle a bit to see a solution. But many dyslexics are really good at that. But moving on, number 15, again, for all 3 groups, I'm talking about like goal setting, and I'd love to work with native people from across the Americas as well as neurodivergent people as well, and possibly the Black diaspora as well, on like my 5 causes of benefiting a town for Celtic libertarianism, helping people from former colonies, like in native people from across the Americas case, they could work with other colonized people, like people from Africa and Asia and Australasia. They could all network together, maybe more, and also the Black diaspora working against imperialism. I think POC should unite and use white supremacy to turn it into a positive by uniting together and supporting each other in politics, business, and all sorts of different areas. I suppose that's quite political. I know normally I like to focus on business on Mondays and Tuesdays and possibly Fridays, as I said before. But also, number 5, the 5th cause is like tackling poverty and alleviating suffering and that kind of thing, but in a libertarian way. So without like more regulation, higher taxes or things like that, more regulations, taxes or whatever. I was going to say life is a numbers game, as I often say, as many people say, and so therefore I'm sure I won't be able to convince every native person from across the Americas to support my goals. I'll try and convince as many as I can. If I can get all of them, that'd be amazing, but I'd be very surprised in a pleasant way. If I can, and similar with neurodivergent people and similar with the Black diaspora. There's a really quirky thing about why I want to support the Black diaspora in November, but I might come to that a bit later. But yeah, I mean, if I can get a few, that would be good. Any more than that is a bonus. I can understand like why native people or even neurodivergent people, and especially black people, might not want to support Italian football, to be fair, because of the racism in Italian football. Maybe that's something Italian football could change. Maybe Italian football could say, instead of hooliganism and racism, we're going to try and improve it so we can win things, rather than be prejudiced or whatever and or violent. But again, I probably can't convince everyone in Italy to do that and improve relations with the black community and with Native Americans. And some neurodivergent people from, let's say, England or Germany or Argentina or whatever might not want to support the Italian football. Certainly not as a first team, but I'd love for Italy to host events to bring neurodivergent people to play football, and maybe even Native Americans, Native people from across the Americas, invite them to Italy, as well as having academies over in the Americas to get them into playing football with Italians to help them to practice, and similar with the Black diaspora. Number 16, I'd love for there to be think tanks which could look at benefiting Native people from across the Americas, and again, similar for neurodivergent people and the Black diaspora. Number 17, I know they say money's in everything, but I was thinking, what if in the future there could be trillionaires from the Native American communities, or if they network together and invest together? I think that'd be quite interesting. I'm just thinking, like, using my imagination. Number 17, I think of like imagine ifs. So imagine if you would, they want Native American or even Native people from the Americas as trillionaires, and similar with neurodivergent trillionaires and black trillionaires as well, maybe in the future. I know people say that Elon Musk, who is said to, well, he said he has Asperger's syndrome or whatever, a form of autism, so he could be a neurodivergent trillionaire in the future. But if and when you get to that level, I think you might as well do as much as you can to help others. But that's my personal opinion. I suppose it is their money. I wouldn't want to force anyone to give their money away. I was thinking, like, I've got in touch with the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, and others, and a lot of time I haven't had replies. I know I have my funny punctuation, so maybe they don't understand me. But even when I left voice tips, but I guess they may or may not receive those voice tips. But it's a dilemma. Do I message them more, but I don't want to overdo it and like be accused of spam or put people off or whatever, which I can be guilty of doing. And I was thinking, if I'm not careful, they might even say report me to Facebook or YouTube or whatever. So I have to be a bit careful about that, of course. But forget my point. Sorry. But yeah, also like I don't remember what I was going to say. Sorry. Emma, I mentioned this before, but like Emma Grede or whatever her name is. I think it's quite ironic, like if you put a Y on the end of her name, it's spelled really, but I think it'd be quite, I was thinking, as she is a fellow dyslexic and also a fellow mum, I think I was even thinking about this when I was thinking like mixed race empowerment, but also I think, what if we give money away because that can make you feel a lot better? And I thought, what if M.K.S, or again, how we pronounce her name, and who apparently worked with the Kardashians and that kind of thing, create great brands in the fashion industry, and also Stephen Bartlett, who is also a fellow mum, as I would say, part jokingly, and also a fellow mixed race guy, basically, and also apparently ADHD, as I said before. What if I could convince them to give away much of their money? But I suppose it's, if I could ask them, I'd say, what would be an amount you could give away and be happy to give away, where you think, I still feel I can do all the things I want to and have the nice house I want, or the nice car I want, or both, or whatever, or all these things, the clothes I want, the food I want, the house I want, all that kind of stuff. But you could still feel good that you helped others, like the school, the Rare Gem School, which I support in Kenya, for instance, which helps neurodivergent students, amongst others. I suppose the fact they're part black as well, maybe that could perhaps sway them, but I wouldn't want to pester them or force them. And I don't really believe in like regulation, more regulations, more laws, higher taxes, and things like that. Forcing people to help others. I want to do it through choice, so not through taxes, I say, not through nationalisation, regulation, and taxation, but through convincing people to say you might feel better giving your money away, or why not give it a try and see if it makes you feel better, and then you never know. And I was talking about imagination before I move on to point number 18. I'd say if the PIF had an imagination, because I'd love for them to invest like billions into Italian football and Celtic, and with Italian football especially, it was like a guilty pleasure, so to speak, if that's the right way of putting it. I thought, imagine if they did that for the Rare Gem School. Like, imagine if they gave like $1 billion or even £1 billion sterling to, or the equivalent of such, to the Rare Gem School. Obviously, that would be in shillings or whatever, Kenyan shillings, I think it is, if I remember correctly. Pretty sure it's Kenyan shillings, but if they gave the equivalent to like £1 billion, but in shillings, to help the Rare Gem School to develop like an ICT suite and things like that, and they could use it as part of their PR, that would probably be covered in all the news stories. Like, wow, this the PIF has given $1 billion to the Rare Gem School in Kenya. I think that'd be pretty amazing, and maybe Qatar and others would want to do the same. If I'm really dreaming and I really imagine this, it'd be hard to imagine this even for me, even as quirky as my imagination is. But if the Rare Gem School had as much money as like Harvard, I know I'm mad. But moving on that note, number 18. I said before, like, what positive things can we learn from Native American traditions? And for number 18, I normally think of positive affirmations, and maybe that's something Native Americans could learn. Number 19, I hope to support Native Americans as technologists and that kind of thing, so in politics and tech, mainly for Tuesdays. And number 20, also, as I say, in those areas, and YouTube, TikTok, and things like that. And I think that covers everything for now, and I'm out. Peace and love.